Hi, welcome back. This is Dr. Burton. We continue our tutorial in Philosophical Foundation, a critical analysis of basic beliefs by Dr. Gangadean. We are now in Chapter 3. The topic of Chapter 3 is knowledge, argument, and presupposition. Ooh, sounds exciting, doesn't it? Let's talk about knowledge. To believe the conclusion of a sound argument because the argument is seen as sound is to possess knowledge. Remember, knowledge is in contrast to skepticism and fideism, which we discussed in previous videos. This is stated more formally by saying a person S knows a proposition P if and only if 1. P is true, 2. S believes P, and 3. S is justified in believing P. These 3 conditions are said to be necessary and sufficient for knowledge. These conditions have been challenged as being neither necessary nor sufficient for knowledge, but the challenge is plausible only until an ambiguity in understanding the third condition of justification is clarified, and only by focusing on secondary rather than primary beliefs. So again, we have a challenge, and you can anticipate Dr. Gangadean will respond to that challenge. Edmund Gettier has argued that these conditions, justified true belief, are not sufficient. And Alvin Plantinga has argued that these conditions are not necessary. And then he has some good footnotes. You should read those. Both have argued in ways that have caught the attention of academic philosophers. Gettier has argued using peculiar counterexamples, and Plantinga by appealing to properly basic beliefs. But if one distinguishes a prima facie weak and an ultima facie strong sense of justification, it can be seen that neither Gettier nor Plantinga is arguing against justification in the strong sense of the term. Weak justification does not guarantee knowledge, whereas strong justification does. Gettier's counterexamples rest on 2 peculiarities. First, there is an ambiguity based on the collapse of sense and reference in the statement. Here's a quote from Gettier: "The man who will get the job has 10 coins in his pocket," end quote. The description fits 2 persons in the example, yet the sense in the mind of the speaker fits only 1 person. The truth of the condition trades on this ambiguity. Second, one is justified only in a weak sense in believing what the boss says regarding who will get the job, without knowing the reliability of the boss in keeping his word. The ambiguity of sense and reference and the reliability of testimony can be handled with the present definition of knowledge, justified true belief, and you don't need to redefine it. I feel like I should give the example that he's referencing here because maybe not everybody knows about it. There are 2 people who were going to be up for promotion. We'll call them Jones and Smith. The boss tells Jones that the man with 10 coins in his pocket is going to get the promotion. Jones knows that Smith has 10 coins in his pocket, so Jones forms the belief the man with 10 coins in his pocket is going to get a promotion. Smith has 10 coins in his pocket, so Smith is going to get the promotion. At the end of the day, Jones is called into the boss's office, and the boss says, "Jones, you got the promotion." And Jones said, "But I thought the man with 10 coins in his pocket was going to get the promotion." And it turns out, it just so happens that Jones also has 10 coins in his pocket. So I'm going to read a sentence again. The ambiguity of sense and reference and the reliability of testimony can be handled with the present definition of knowledge as justified true belief. So we need to think about, is knowledge through testimony, is knowledge through experience, or is knowledge through reason? That's going to become clearer as we go through this chapter. And by reason, we need arguments, not just the boss told you something. Plantinga's objection rests on 2 factors. First, a theory that justifying one's belief can be undermined by improperly functioning faculties, and second, that belief in God is properly basic, occurring spontaneously and requiring no justification, for a person under certain circumstances. And then he gives a footnote. Regarding proper function, the faculty of reason used critically at the basic level is not like the faculty of sense perception. The former may be used or not used by choice. The latter may dysfunction in use due to organic brain conditions beyond one's choice. Dysfunction is not disuse. Introspection helps in the former, not in the latter. Regarding what is basic, what is properly basic is not the same as what is logically basic. That's an important distinction. The former can be objected to, the latter cannot be objected to. So logically basic cannot be objected to. God created all things has been objected to, and so is not initially strongly justified. Being cannot come from non-being, has no defeaters. So there's a whole paragraph on Plantinga, and he's kind of assuming you know who Plantinga is, you know what the problems Plantinga is wrestling with are. If you don't, that's okay. If you're just new to philosophy and you're like, who's Getty or who's Plantinga? That's okay. You can read, you can follow the footnotes and read up on those two. I personally have written books on Plantinga and Gettier. Where are my books? They're behind me. Here. This little book is called Reason and Proper Function, and it goes over in a whole book what Professor Gangadean just covered in a paragraph. The other book is called Retrieving Knowledge, a Socratic Response to Skepticism, and I go over the Gettier problems in this book. So if you do want to read about Gettier and Plantinga, I have written about them, but also Dr. Gangadean's new book, The History of Philosophy, he goes over Plantinga and Gettier briefly in a chapter in that book. So if you don't know now who they are, you can read up on them, and we will continue this chapter, Knowledge by Reason and Argument. This is the exciting stuff, right? We know by reason and argument. So he's telling you, how do we know things? Not by senses, not by intuition, not by testimony, not by tradition. How? By reason and argument. The pseudo-arguments are used as a substitute for argument and preclude the use of arguments. We went over pseudo-arguments in the last video. Because of the use of pseudo-arguments, we seldom get to engage in genuine arguments. They must therefore be watched for and guarded against constantly. But how do we know by reason and argument? Knowing is a category of thought. It is not a category of being. Being and thought are distinct, though related. The epistemological is not to be confused with the ontological. Thought is thought about being. Being is ontologically prior to thought, both as the object of thought, what is thought about, and as the subject of thought, the being of the person doing the thinking. But what is first in the order of thought is not what is first in the order of being. Reason, the laws of thought, is first in the order of thought. What is eternal, God or matter, is first in the order of being. We know being through thought, and we may recursively interpret thought not in light of being itself, but in light of our thought or belief or view of being. Our first thought about being, any being, is that reason is not only epistemological, but that reason is ontological as well. Reason applies to being as well as to thought. In looking at knowledge of being, therefore, we must look at reason in its first use, reason as formative. So he just said a lot of deep stuff about thought and being. And I just want to, again, reference this new book, History of Philosophy. He has a whole beautiful section on the relationship of being and thought. And if you took Mr. Gangadean's classes and you remember the concept of being handout, there's a whole section of a commentary that he wrote on the concept of being handout. It's so great. But we're going to talk about reason, and we're going to talk about concept first. So we did talk about reason, but we're going to go a little bit more deeply now. Concept. Reason as formative is used to form concepts, judgments, and arguments, the forms of all thought. Concept is the first act of reason. In a concept, the mind grasps the essential nature of a class of beings or aspect, quality, state, relation, or activity of beings. The essence of a being or aspect of a being is the set of qualities that all members and only members always have. A concept is expressed by a term, a word or group of words. We have the concept of pen, rock, horse, man, finite, angel, happy, on the table, running. A concept is universal in two senses. It applies equally to all members of a class, and it is the same in all thinkers who think about the class of things, such as a horse, man, angel, etc. So pause. A concept is universal in that it applies to all members of a class. Dog. What were the other ones he used here? Horse, man. So the concept man applies to all humans. And a concept is universal in that all who think have the same concept. So when we think about horse, we're talking about the concept of the same being horse, right? Now you might disagree, but I'd like you to think through it before you disagree and reject it. Okay, a concept is not an image which is given through the senses. So a particular horse that you see through your eyes is not the same as the concept of horse. A concept is not an image which is given through the senses and which is always particular to the object perceived and to the perceiver. So your senses are particular to you. A concept is not a sensation, a pleasure, like pleasure or pain, nor the association of an image and sensation, or it's not orderly behavior either. So it's not an image, not a sensation, not orderly behavior. Sounds and behavior can express sensation, but these are not terms expressing concepts. So can express frustration, but the concept of frustration and the expression of frustration are not the same thing. Oh boy, here comes the most controversial topic of the whole book, guys. Ready? If animals could think, they would have concepts which were universal to all thinkers, and we would be able to communicate with them as with other human beings. The difference would be one of language, which could be learned as any human language, apart from training and conditioned response. So, if animals could think, we could communicate with them as we do with other human beings. We cannot communicate with animals as we do with other human beings. Therefore, animals don't think. They don't use concepts. Go ahead, shoot me some messages down below. I know this is going to make you mad, but Dusty's right here on the floor. He's been through all these recordings, and I don't think it benefits him at all. Is he intelligent? Yes, he is. But is he using concepts? No, he's not. He does know the association of words and stimuli. Like if he knows how to spell too. If I were to say the word Treat right now, they would both wake up. Now Miles, he's baby, he's over there. He hasn't gone through many classes like Dusty has. Yeah, he's looking at me. He's like, lady, it's time to eat. Is he thinking that? No. Animals don't think. Ooh. Concepts are formed by and express the law of identity. A is A. Pen is pen. Horse is horse. Man is man. Man is not non-man. That is rabbit, rock, angel, star, etc. In forming concepts, we classify and we identify by distinguishing A from non-A. Concepts are naturally paired as complementary as A and non-A. All humans have the qualities of rationality and animality. So we're rational animals. We have these and related qualities such as wisdom, power, and goodness in a finite, temporal, and changeable way. So concepts assume being and essence. But concepts are logically ordered so that a less basic concept, human or man, becomes embedded in and affected by more basic concepts like matter, and this in turn by still more basic concepts like eternal. Humans differ in making judgments about basic concepts, such as whether matter is eternal and whether all being is material. So we all have the concepts, but we make different judgments about them. We therefore disagree on the concept of man. Is man a body-soul unity, the image of God, or is man as a being which is entirely material, the image of the animal? So here's the disagreement, depending on your understanding of what man means. The term man, therefore, is philosophically ambiguous among different users of the term, even while it is denotatively, as far as its members, not ambiguous. So there's two kinds of ambiguity. We may not fully grasp a concept, or the concept may have different meanings within different philosophical systems or worldviews, like man does. Human nature will be different depending on whether you believe in God or you don't, or what your view of God is. Because the concept man differs philosophically among different users of the term, this is not to deny that concepts grasp essences. Different conceptions of essence are not the denial of essences as such. In the process of being formed and in being connected with more basic concepts, concepts may be well-formed or not well-formed, coherent or incoherent. Unknown aspects do not invalidate aspects that are known. Disputes about what is eternal do not overturn what it means to be eternal, although they affect what it means to be human in part. If basic things are clear, then what is eternal is clear. If these things are not clear, then nothing is clear, and we are left with skepticism or fideism. Skepticism and fideism are just what are being objected to in this work and will be addressed as we go further. Some further clarification about concepts and words is in order. Words are used ambiguously, not only by different schools of philosophy. They are ambiguous to all users of a language in a conventional sense. A term can be equivocal, different, unrelated meanings, analogous, different, related meanings, or univocal, only one meaning, in its conventional use. Dictionaries take note of this form of ambiguity, but not of philosophical ambiguity. And there are different meanings of words when language is used for different purposes. For example, in poetry, in advertising, in work, in worship, in ceremony, etc. Here, meaning is taken as use in a particular form of life. And then he has a nice footnote there. I'll let you check it out. Incidentally, this book goes into more detail in this section. Because words are signs of thought and meaning, which are as broad and full as life itself, and because we are ever increasing in our exploration of meaning, the adaptation to relatively few words to express this range of meaning is a sign of human genius, not a sign that words signify nothing except for other signifiers. Postmodernists reject essences per se as part of their anti-realist view of knowledge. There's a footnote there. Words do not express concepts which grasp essences. The meanings of words is learned in a linguistic community, and words refer only to other words as taught in that community. Meaning of words may be extended and transformed by a linguistic community apart from reference to their being and essence through the use of metaphor and word association in the use of pun, but the extension and transformation of meaning are still rule-governed and grounded in the relation of concept to being and essence, and will be analyzed accordingly when used as support for skepticism. Here we merely anticipate, we do not engage the claims made by postmodernism about meaning and reference in language in support of a skeptical outcome. I should say again, I'm going to plug it, there is a little section in here about Derrida and language. Okay, do we want to pause? Yes, I think we want to pause because the next section is about judgment and argument, and I think we want to take a little more time and not bog you down. This is like a mini logic lesson. If you want more logic courses, check out my playlist, Logic Basics. Maybe I'll link that down below. You can have a whole class just on these 3 chapters. Okay, thanks for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next video. We'll talk about judgment and argument.